It's interesting that you described your experience that way, that you came in expecting one thing and you got something else, because I think in many ways that's what drives a lot of the programming decisions that we make here. You have to meet audiences where they are, right? So, and then you have the opportunity to maybe push the boundary a little bit, and that can be through it's usually through the artist. But I believe the purpose of art, why it's powerful for what we do here at the museum, which is about changing minds, which is about changing attitudes towards people of color, people from other parts of the world, people who are Muslim, people who are Hindu, people who are, it's about cross-cultural dialogue. And the language you just used, you came in expecting one thing, you got something else, for me is powerful, because I've always talked about art, and we talk about art, about being something that can move you. And what that means to me is I'm here and now I'm here, right? And so that is how you move people, right? That is how you, it's a slight shift in the way you see the world. And I hope that the artists and the exhibitions we do give people the opportunity to have that reflection and be moved, right? And if we're successful in doing that, then, alhamdulillah, right? It's a great thing. We started actually a few years ago with this Rhythms of Canada notion. And the idea was that there are many beats. There are many rhythms to what it means to be Canadian. And, one of the things that we've tried to establish, so when I present a Kathak dancer, for example, what I'm trying to say to Canadians and to people, the public, is this is Canadian art. Ragamala, Indian classical music, this is Canadian. Now we know Misha Shafi, who's from Pakistan, is a Canadian artist. The Pioneers, Josh, started 2 decades ago, right? The only band that has won MTV awards in India and Pakistan, two seeming, that whole tension that happens there has no place in a place like Canada, right? And that's powerful. And so there's we had Chinese performers, and, we've worked with indigenous artists, and all of this forms the fabric of the museum, but of this nation as well. And so this Rhythms of Canada is an opportunity to look at these different beats and find your own rhythm, right? Find your own way to enter the conversation. And yesterday I was just talking to Tanzila about this. So yesterday we had the Syrian group of a women's Syrian choir. And it's wonderful as someone who works in this business that I can attend an event like that, and I was there with pleasure. I introduced them. I cried. I cried. Why? Because these people, the Syrian people, have suffered so much. They're new Canadians here. They've been here just for a few years. And what did they choose to do? They choose to sing. And they choose to bring us music and share it with one another and with everyone else who shows up. And there were grown men there crying, including me, because it was so amazing that on Canada Day we could hear this music. That community, they could see themselves reflected in a public space like this. This is what this space is for, right? And I think, it was a very powerful moment for me yesterday to be able to see that and witness it and be part of it. And there's a whole team here that makes this stuff happen, right? So from our exhibitions, our crew, our volunteers, so many volunteers, our operations staff, I'm in awe of them all, right? Because everyone kind of knows what we're here to do, right? And so we're all pulling in the same direction, and that is a good feeling. Right. I love working with artists. It's the vision, the unique vision that they bring, the solutions they bring, right? The opportunity, for music, for example, which I do a lot of programming in, to bring together people from different cultures who might not otherwise And it's the art, it's the commitment of the artists that does that. We presented recently Ross Daly, who is a Greek artist, with Araz Salek, who is from Labyrinth, Ontario. He was a Persian artist. So can you imagine, in our auditorium, we have an audience that's 50% Iranian and 50% Greek? Like, this is like a 5,000-year-old feud, right? And here in the auditorium, around music, they're enjoying the work of artists. And this, you know, this is what we're blessed with in this sector and in a place like the Aga Khan Museum. Like, you know, we have this opportunity to engage in cross-cultural dialogue that's honest, right? And that, like, you know, it's about our common humanity, and that's really the important gist and crux of everything. That's what drives me, right? Like, and so when I first came to the museum 10 years ago, I didn't know much about Central Asian art or artists, or, you know, I learned, and I learned from artists themselves. They told me, they taught me, right? And I think we learn from one another. And that's what drives, you know, me. We're about education, and I just believe artists are very good teachers, right? And this keeps us going, you know. And in this site, I'm looking at this site right now, and I'm thinking, you know, when it was opened, the museum, you know, is art, culture. This park is nature, and the Ismaili Center is spirit, right? And so it's this idea of bringing together art, nature, spirit, because this is what makes up our being in the world, you know. We need these things. We need to care for our spirit, we need to care for our planet, and we need to care for our hopes, aspirations, and that's what artists do. It's like imagining a better world. It's about imagination, khayal, right? Like, it's like imagination, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.